What happens when America's sweetheart, Kelly Clarkson, suddenly finds herself in the most uncomfortable interview of her career? What began as a routine morning show appearance quickly unraveled into live television chaos, leaving viewers stunned, producers scrambling, and co-host Creig Melvin completely speechless. This is the story of how one seemingly harmless question about Kelly's personal life spiraled into a confrontation so intense that she walked off the Today Show set. The morning at NBC's New York studios started like any other. Kelly Clarkson, glowing after another successful season of her talk show, was booked for a standard promotional segment, The Plan. Discuss her new album, upcoming tour, and her growing success as a television host. Behind the scenes, the atmosphere was upbeat. Crew members chatted casually, expecting yet another light-hearted, feel-good segment. Kelly, known for her down-to-earth warmth, arrived smiling, greeting staff, joking with makeup artists, and putting everyone at ease. Creig Melvin, equally prepared, had his talking points ready. As the two settled into their chairs under the iconic Today Show lights, the energy felt effortless. Cameras rolled. The interview began smoothly. Creig welcomed her with enthusiasm, praising her talk show and new album. Kelly lit up as she described her creative process, how her music was shaped by personal experiences, highs and lows, and her collaborations with other artists. She laughed easily at Creig's jokes, charming the studio audience with her signature openness. Then came the turn. Leaning forward slightly, Creig asked, "Now I have to ask, you've been so open about your divorce. How are you handling things now? And is there someone special in your life?" The question seemed harmless enough, the kind of personal but safe territory morning shows thrive on. Kelly's smile stayed in place, but her tone shifted. Just enough for sharp ears to catch it. "You know, Creig, I'm in a really good place. I'm focused on my kids, my career, and taking things one day at a time. That's the healthiest thing for me right now." It was a graceful deflection. Most hosts would have taken the cue and moved on. Creig didn't. "That's great to hear," he pressed. "But there have been some rumors lately. Any truth to those stories?" This time, Kelly's expression hardened ever so slightly. Her response came clipped, polite, but firm. "I prefer to keep my private life private. I think my fans understand and respect that. It should have ended there." But Creig pushed again. "Of course, privacy is important. But your fans love you. They want to know what makes Kelly Clarkson happy outside of work. Just a little hint?" Kelly's jaw tightened. Her fingers laced together in her lap. The camera caught the subtle tension, the unspoken signal that something was shifting. Her smile faded as she looked directly at him. "What makes me happy?" Kelly's voice was still controlled, but now carried an unmistakable chill. "What makes me happy, Creig," she said evenly, "is being able to come on shows like this and talk about my music and my work without having every corner of my personal life dissected for entertainment value." The tension in the studio thickened instantly. Crew members shifted uncomfortably, some exchanging wary glances. Everyone could feel the air changing. Creig, either oblivious or unwilling to back down, chuckled lightly, a laugh that didn't quite land. "Kelly, I think you might be reading too much into this," he said with a strained smile. "We're just having a friendly conversation. Your fans care about you, not just as a performer, but as a person." For the first time, Kelly's eyes hardened. Anger flickered there, though her tone remained measured. "And I appreciate that support, Creig, I really do. But caring about someone doesn't entitle them to know every detail of their private life." The exchange grew sharper by the second. Creig leaned in, his tone tightening. I'm not asking for every detail. These are basic questions, ones any public figure would expect. This is part of what you signed up for when you stepped into the spotlight. Kelly's face flushed. When she spoke again, her voice carried a steely edge unfamiliar to those used to her sunny TV persona. What I signed up for was to promote my album, to talk about my work. I didn't sign up to justify my personal choices or feed gossip for people who think my private life exists for their entertainment. The warmth that had filled the studio just minutes earlier was gone. The crew stood frozen, sensing the interview had crossed into dangerous ground. Creig, perhaps realizing he was losing control, pressed harder instead of pulling back. "Kelly, I think you're being a little defensive," he said, his professional smile faltering. "I'm not trying to invade your privacy. I'm doing my job, asking questions our viewers care about. You've been open about your struggles before, so why is this off-limits now?" Kelly's fingers gripped the arms of her chair, her composure tested to its limits. There's a difference between choosing to share something to help people and being pushed to reveal things I'm not ready to discuss. I thought you'd understand that. The cameras kept rolling, catching every sharp edge in her voice, every flash in her eyes. The audience at home couldn't miss it now. The tension was undeniable. Creig tried again, his tone firm but defensive. "Look, I respect your right to privacy, but you have to admit, when you put yourself out there as a talk show host who invites guests to open up about their lives, people are naturally going to wonder about yours." Kelly leaned forward, her voice lowering into a dangerously calm register. "So because I create a safe space for my guests, that means I've forfeited my own right to boundaries?" "That's an interesting perspective, Creig." Creig stammered slightly, his confidence cracking. "That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying your brand, your whole appeal, is being authentic, being relatable. People want to know you." Kelly's response came with renewed force, her voice rising with conviction. "My brand, as you call it, is built on honesty when I choose to share, on respect, on authentic connection. It is not built on feeding curiosity just because people feel entitled to my private business." By now, the studio was dead silent. Off-camera producers whispered frantically into headsets. Some crew members looked like they wished they could disappear. And then Creig said the words that pushed her over the edge. "I understand your position, Kelly. But honestly, reacting this strongly to basic questions is only going to make people wonder what you're trying to hide." The words hit like a slap. Kelly's face flushed, her voice trembling. Not with weakness, but with fury barely held in check. "What I'm trying to hide?" she repeated, incredulous. "Creig, what I'm trying to do is give my children a sense of normalcy. What I'm trying to do is build relationships that aren't torn apart by strangers' opinions. What I'm trying to do is be a human being who happens to be famous, not a famous person who's forgotten how to be human." Creig shifted uncomfortably, realizing too late that he'd crossed a line. "Kelly, I didn't mean to suggest." But Kelly cut him off, her voice rising now, every word a dagger. "No, let me finish." Kelly's voice cracked open, the words tumbling out raw. "You want to know what I'm hiding?" "I'm hiding the fact that sometimes I cry in my car after interviews like this, because it feels like I can't win. If I share too much, I'm accused of oversharing for attention. If I hold something back, I'm called secretive or difficult." Her eyes glistened, but her voice stayed firm. "I'm hiding the fact that my kids ask me why strangers on the internet think they can comment on every part of our lives. I'm hiding the fact that sometimes I wonder if the price of this career is worth it, when I have to justify my basic right to privacy to people who should know better. The studio air turned heavy. Even the crew froze, watching with a kind of guilty discomfort. Kelly leaned forward, her gaze cutting into Creig. You have a family, Creig. Would you want every detail of your marriage, your relationships, dissected by millions of people who don't even know you? Creig opened his mouth, but Kelly pressed on, her voice tightening with anger and disappointment. And you know what else I'm hiding? How deeply let down I feel right now. I've always respected you, as a journalist, as a person. I thought you knew the difference between asking meaningful questions and digging for gossip. I thought you'd recognize when you'd crossed a line. The only sound was the faint hum of studio equipment. Creig looked pale, rattled, his confidence visibly shaken. Kelly, I think maybe I misread the moment, he stammered, his voice suddenly small. Kelly's reply was calm, cold, and final. No, Creig, you read it just fine. You just chose ratings over respect. You chose to push past my boundaries because you thought it would make good television. Well, congratulations. You got your moment. Her words landed like a blow. Creig sat frozen, his face drained of color. Kelly rose from her chair. And now, she said, her voice steady. This interview is over. The studio seemed to hold its breath as she stood, smoothing her jacket, eyes locked on him. Creig's voice broke into a plea. Kelly, please, let's take a breath. We can reset. Start over. Kelly stared down at him, her expression resolute. You don't just reset a conversation like a computer program. You can't unsay the things you said, or undo how you made me feel. That's not how respect works. Creig scrambled for footing, his words tumbling in desperation. I admit I may have pushed too hard, but that's journalism. Sometimes you ask the tough questions to get to the truth. Kelly let out a sharp, humorless laugh. The truth? What truth were you after? That I'm dating someone? That's not truth, Creig. That's gossip. That's ratings bait. And if you can't see the difference, then you've lost the very thing that makes journalism worth anything. Several crew members had stopped moving entirely, riveted by the spectacle. Off camera, frantic whispers buzzed through headsets. Creig's composure had collapsed completely. That's not fair, he protested weakly. This isn't about ratings. It's about connecting with people. Your audience cares about you. They want to know how you're really doing. Kelly shook her head slowly. The anger in her face softened into something heavier, more devastating. Disappointment. If they care about me, then they'll respect my boundaries. That's what connection really looks like. She glanced at the cameras, then back at Creig. Her voice was quiet, but it cut like glass. This isn't connection. It's exploitation. And with that, Kelly Clarkson turned, her heels clicking against the studio floor as she walked off the set, leaving silence, shock, and the wreckage of an interview gone disastrously wrong. People relate to me because I choose to share my struggles in a way that helps them feel less alone. I share my experiences when I'm ready, in my own space, on my own terms. What you tried to do was strip away that choice. Like my pain was some kind of currency you could spend for ratings. Her fingers unclipped the microphone from her jacket with steady, deliberate precision. Every movement radiated finality. There's a line, she continued, her voice calm but cutting, between genuine connection and exploitation, and you crossed it without hesitation. Creig lurched to his feet, panic flickering in his eyes as the crew looked on. Kelly, come on. You're blowing this out of proportion. It's television. We ask questions. Guests answer them. Everyone goes home. You're acting like I broke a law or something." Kelly froze mid-motion, her gaze locking onto his with unshakable disappointment. "A law?" "No, Creig. But you did break something. You broke trust. You took someone who showed up in good faith, trusting that they'd be treated with respect, and you decided your agenda mattered more than their dignity." The weight of her words visibly landed. Creig's expression shifted. Confusion, then a flicker of shame. I didn't mean for it to come across that way," he stammered. Kelly set the microphone firmly on her chair. "Intentions don't erase impact. You intended to do your job. But you didn't stop to consider how your job made me feel like less of a human being and more of a headline. You wanted content. You never once thought about the cost of that content to me." The room was silent, every crew member watching history unfold. Kelly glanced at them, her voice softening with something like grief. "You know the worst part? I actually love doing interviews. I love connecting, talking about the music, sharing the joy. But moments like this, they make me want to shut it all down. They make me want to put up walls instead of building bridges." Creig's voice cracked as he pleaded, "Please don't let one bad interview ruin it all." Kelly shook her head. "This isn't about one interview. This is about a culture that treats fame like permission. Permission to pry, to dig, to cross boundaries. This is about forgetting that the people you put on these couches are human beings with limits." She walked toward the edge of the set, her steps measured but resolute. Creig hurried after her, desperate to contain the wreckage. "What am I supposed to tell the viewers?" he called. Kelly turned, her voice sharp but steady. "Tell them the truth, Creig. Tell them you pushed someone past their boundaries for entertainment. Tell them I chose my self-respect over your segment. Tell them that when people aren't treated with basic decency, sometimes they walk away." Her voice grew firmer with each word. "Tell them fame doesn't equal consent. Tell them celebrities are still people. And tell them—" Her eyes swept across the silent studio. "That maybe this will remind everyone that the faces they see on television go home to real lives, real families, real struggles. We're not here just to amuse you." With that, Kelly Clarkson turned and walked off the Today Show set. Creig Melvin stood motionless under the harsh lights, his crew frozen around him, the cameras still rolling, the silence pressed in, broken only by the low hum of equipment and the faint noises of a newsroom unaware that television history had just been made. For long seconds, Creig looked like a man realizing the full cost of his choices. Then, slowly, he turned to the camera, his face the mask of someone who knew nothing would ever be the same. "So, what do you think really pushed Kelly over the edge? Was it Creig's persistence, his dismissive attitude, or something deeper about how celebrities are treated in our culture?" Subscribe for more stories like this, and let me know in the comments what you think was the real breaking point in this unforgettable confrontation.